And tonight we have Lon Strickler. And Lon, you are, according to what I see here, researcher investigator at Phantoms and Monsters Fortean Research. And you also are a radio talk show host at Arcane Radio.
This is true.
Awesome. So, I'll start out with one of my favorite questions. I usually ask people a question to break the ice, so anyone that comes in and visits with us and watches and everything can get to know you a little bit on with you saying it, and instead of reading your profiles and stuff. So, what got you started in the paranormal? What what brought
Well, I
your
was young.
interest?
I was young when it started. I was born and raised near Gettysburg. Used to spend a lot of time on the Gettysburg battlefield. I'd ride my bike on a Saturday morning sometimes or Saturday afternoon and just go there and spend my time. I mean, I was like 9 years old or so. But one day I was in the area of what they call the Valley Death. And that's an area between Little Round Top, the wheat field, and Devil's Den. So I had always known that I had something, ability of some type, because I would occasionally sense things, see things, didn't know what was going on. I mean, I live in a haunted house or anything, but I would sense strange things. Well, anyway, this one day I was at that location on my bike and I had just stopped, and all of a sudden, it was like a TV screen turned on in front of me, and it opened up, and I was in the middle of battle. I mean, I was literally smelling gunfire, smelling gunpowder, hearing gunfire, cannon fire, yellow screams, apparitions, the whole 9 yards. And this lasted for about 30 seconds, and it just suddenly stopped.
Hmm.
And I was stunned. But that did kind of give me proof that day I was able to sense spirit energy, and I believe it may have been residual, but then again, the way this thing came out, I mean, I don't know, But since that time, like I said, I can sense spirit energy, and I got to learn more and more about the paranormal. I mean, this is back in, oh my God, I was probably the late '60s when this happened. And I actually started doing paranormal investigations as soon as I got out of high school back in the mid '70s. And then I moved down to Maryland. I lived near Baltimore for about 40 years. Had a Bigfoot encounter, had another winged humanoid encounter back in Pennsylvania. And I was investigating a lot of other things. But no, I've kind of been through a lot over those years. I mean, there have been times I did it a lot more, but it's pretty well full time me now.
Cool. Yeah, it seems like everybody has a similar answer to the fact that it started with them young to where they had an experience that caused them to start getting an interest in it. So you're more into the cryptids, is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
So
it is.
so kind of like what I got here behind me on the screen.
Yeah,
This is this. Do you know this photograph
yeah, the
that I got
patty
up?
photo.
There you
Yep.
go. There you go. The very famous Patterson film that's from.
So,
I
do you
love it.
think that one's? Do you think that one's a hoax, like some people believe, or do you think that one's real?
Everything I have seen indicates that there was a real thing. I've heard all the story. I've heard debunkers and the whole 9 yards. But for a person to do the movement and to simulate the body and the movements and all that in a suit back in the mid '60s or late '60s, no, that's the real deal.
Yeah. Not just that. Joe and I have actually watched that film, and we've watched it a couple of
You
times
can see the
very
muscle
closely.
mass.
You can see the muscle movement in the hips and the legs. You
Yeah.
can literally see the muscle moving underneath. If that was a suit, you would not be seeing that.
Plus,
Nope.
even Hollywood back then, because we all know that the Planet of the Apes was the originals were made in the '60s or whatever. They, they didn't look anything like that. So
Well, they
Hollywood didn't even
couldn't.
have the
If they
technology to
had
make it look
right,
that
if
real.
Hollywood had that type of technology then to pull that off, what do you think would our movies would even look like now? I mean,
Yeah.
considering. So, cryptids. What what's the thing that got you mostly into the cryptids?
Well, I had an encounter with a Bigfoot back in 1981.
What kind of encounter was it? Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, I was living in Sykesville, Maryland at the time, which
Okay.
is about 15 miles west of Baltimore. And I was fly fishing on the South branch of the Patapsco River, which is a location I've fished for years.
Hmm.
And this was May the 9th, 1981, nice sunny morning. And I was standing in waders in the river fishing for rock bass. And I saw a dog. I noticed a dog on the other side, on the north side. And there were some high weeds and stuff. And he was moving around. And he wasn't bothering me, so I just didn't pay him any mind. But not long after that, I heard a loud yelping sound from this dog. And I looked over there. And as I looked over there, this big hairy thing stood up in the weeds. Now I could see it pretty clear from kind of mid chest up. I mean, these weeds were thick. And I watched it as it moved to my left and walked out of the weeds and stood there and faced me. And I was about 30 to 40 yards away. And this thing stood there and just watched me and looked at me. We were eye to eye for about 10 seconds. And, you know, honestly, I really didn't know what I was looking at, though I had an idea that, yeah, this might be a Bigfoot. But it was, it kind of looked more human than it did ape. The face itself looked like representations of a Neanderthal, though it did have the thick brow ridge and the flat nose and such. But it was it had a lot of thick brown hair on it, and the skin was kind of darkish color. But I'm just standing there looking at it. Definitely male, because I can see the genitalia in this thing as well. And I'm standing in the river with my jaw in the river, and thinking about what the hell am I looking at? So this thing turns quickly and walks quickly up into the wood. So I got out of the river, got to my car, and drove into town, which was about 2-3 minutes away, very close. And I found the first phone I could, which was on a bar right there by the river, and I called the local cops. And they told me, well, go back to the location, we'll have somebody meet you there. I figured I'd drive back and I'd be there an hour waiting for somebody. But anyway, when I got there, there was one of those long wood barriers across the road already. And there was a Maryland State policeman standing there. So I pulled up. He flagged me down. He said, look, you got to turn around and get out of here. I said, look, I made the call to Lakeville Police. They told me to come here and meet whoever showed up. He said, and he was getting pissed at me. He told me, you got to get up and, turn around and leave. So I said, okay, well, that's what I did. I turned around and went home. So after about an hour or so, after I changed clothes and all, and I figured, I'm going back up there. I'm going to see what's going on. So I drove up there, and by the time I got there, I mean, there were cars everywhere. I actually had to park my car about a quarter mile away from where this thing was and walk up the road till I got to the barrier. And when I got there was a Howard County police officer standing there. And I kind of walked up to him. I mean, and look, there were people in the woods down by along the creek. They were I mean, they had dogs. It must have been at least 7 or 8 dog handlers in the woods. They had a big white tent set up across the river where this thing was. Um, there were police cars from all the area around there. There were also federal cars. Back then, you used to drive those black Wagoneers.
Hmm.
And I heard helicopters. I didn't see a helicopter, but I heard it. So I asked this Howard County cop, I said, what's going on? He said, he started laughing. He said, somebody said they saw Bigfoot. Well, I didn't tell him I was the guy who made the report. But, I said, oh, okay. So I'm standing there watching all this. And there's a couple other people standing there. So I said, well, I'm gonna leave. So I went ahead and went on back, and I went on home. So I went home and called the local television stations. There were 3 of them at the time in Baltimore, and I called them and told them what happened, and they said, "Oh yeah, we'll get back to you. You get back to us or whatever in a couple of days when we get this story." I thought, okay. So 4 days later, I decided I'm going to call the one of the stations, and I got the news editor on there, and he told me, I don't even want to talk to you. And I'm thinking to myself, uh-oh, somebody got to somebody.
Hmm.
So I had some. I later had some corroboration by one of the local police officers. He wrote a statement out to me, and that area has had sightings before. They had what they called the Sykesville monster back in the early '70s, and when I found that out, uh, I actually got in touch with one of the guys I worked with, actually, because he had a lot of family that lived down in that area where this thing was hanging out in the river, by the river in Sykesville. And he got me some introductions to where I went and started talking to some of the original witnesses. And I found other witnesses that the press didn't get to at the time. So I kind of caught the bug. That was the day I caught the bug. And ever since, of course, I still do paranormal investigations, hauntings,
Yeah.
I help people and such. But I've been hooked on cryptids ever since then.
That is a cool story, man. That is a real cool story.
Now I got a question since we're on the Bigfoot topic still. Does it actually? Do you actually smell that odor that people claim that they smell when they have seen or witnessed a Bigfoot? They get that
Yeah,
awful stench.
I do occasionally get those reports like that. What I smelled was similar to like fox urine. Now I don't know why, but that's what it smelled like because I used to use fox urine when I used to go deer hunting, and I used to rub it on my shoes to mask my body odor.
Right,
But
right, right.
Hmm.
that's kind of what it smelled like to me. And this thing was making a ticking sound as well, like it was gnashing its teeth. Now I don't know why it was doing that. I have heard others state something similar to that, but no, that's what this thing was doing. And when it was standing there watching me, it was making that clicking sound.
That sounds to me like a defense mechanism that a wild creature would have
It may
to
be. I mean,
intimidate. So,
possible.
you got a theory on what Bigfoot might actually be?
Oh, I've always got theories, but I think I think that it kind of falls in 2 categories: flesh and blood, then flesh and blood, but uh, not of this earth or a supernatural being.
Hmm.
I think most of what people see are flesh and blood, but I think some of them actually are able to manifest either cloaking or coming through portals or from other realities. I think most of those that are seen in North America, except for a few places where there are family group pods and such, like the uh, the Pacific Northwest, Florida, areas around the Gulf. Uh, I think those are actual flesh and blood indigenous beings, but for the most part, most of what people see are just singular uh, creatures. And I do believe that most of those, if not all of those, have supernatural aspects to them.
Right.
And there's another theory I've been working on and trying to get more and more information on is this Glimmerman effect. Now, I don't know what you know what I'm talking about, but the Glimmerman effect is like with the movie Predator. With the kind
Where
of
they got camouflage.
yeah, I I get reports of that a lot, and I think this may be some type of mechanism used by either cryptids or just Bigfoot or other cryptids to camouflage or to cloak themselves. And ever since I started getting these reports, I'm thinking to myself, the guy that wrote the screenplay for the Predator movie must have had some type of experience similar to that, because what people describe is very similar to what was shown in the movie.
Which you see in Predator. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, one of my theories on it is is that they are an interdimensional being, and they're like super intelligent. I mean, why else would we be able to have all these different reports of them being seen, and yet when we go searching for them, we can't find them?
Well, the only evidence that's actually found ever has been like the people taking casts of footprints. You
Yeah,
know,
pretty
you don't
much.
find any DNA evidence because when they go and run it, it's either ruined, undetermined. All kinds of different things have happened with what they thought was Bigfoot DNA.
Well, there has been DNA found, uh, and I will say this: it's very inconclusive. But the DNA that I have read about, that some researchers have shared with me, uh, usually comes up to being very close to human.
That would kind of make it sound like maybe they are a subspecies of a Neanderthal. That
Either that, or there's just another subspecies of Homo sapien, or something
true.
that they digressed, or just. But yeah,
Well,
I think the ones that are indigenous may very well be some type of relic that
it could be.
come up. It came through another evolution branch
Yep.
and just didn't catch up.
Well, you know that some of the theories on them too is the ones out of the Florida regions and the Everglades and stuff, that they are an advanced species of of what they called the skunk ape.
Hmm.
And then another theory that some people have come up with too, for the North American ones here and up in like in the Sierra Nevadas and stuff like that, where people have seen them, that they are uh, that they're from the line of supposedly extinct primates called the Gigantopithecus, the giant orange ape.
Yeah, there's a lot of different theories. I mean, until we get a very distinct DNA match or even a body,
Yeah.
uh, we're not going to really know.
Well, there is a person that I deliver dry ice in the Madison area, and there's a guy that works at one of the places I deliver to. He told me about uh, it's not a video, it's an audio that he ran across on YouTube, where it was a retired military guy that was part of the cleanup crew when Mount St. Helens exploded, and he swears up and down that they found bodies of
Hmm.
Bigfoot, and some of them still alive, and that they had actually nursed them back to health.
Yeah, I've heard
So,
that story, and I've actually talked to one of the witnesses. This was years ago, but
it was back
he
in
tell
'84, I believe.
well, Mount St. Helens blew in what, 80?
Was that
Um,
'84? Was it '84 or '86? I think it was in that
no, it
time
was
frame.
80, 1980.
It was '80.
Yeah, and he told me, and I believe it's probably secondhand, but it was someone he knew very well, that he actually saw one of these things laying in a tent being treated for burns. Of course, they had it anesthetized and had the thing knocked out. But he did see a living one in a tent. I don't know if it was Army Corps of Medic Corps or something, a MASH unit or something. But yeah, and I heard the story about the helicopters picking up the bodies and the whole 9 yards. And I believe that's probably true because there had been a lot of Bigfoot sightings in that area for eons, So it most likely killed a few of them.
So anyway, Joe, take it for a second.
Well, and then the government likes to cover that stuff up, so that's why it's hard to find true information about it.
I just got a text message. I gotta.
Well, deal with it.
Excuse myself for a minute.
And then let's see, the other one I've seen you post a lot about is the Mothman.
Right.
Now that one's all over too. Where did that originate exactly?
Well, the original Mothman, or what they call the Mothman, occurred in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, back in '66 and '67. There were several sightings down there, and at the time, people didn't really know what this thing was. It was described as being a moth-like humanoid being with large red eyes that were kind of embedded in the top of the body, very similar to what a moth or a butterfly or something like that. And it was somewhat aggressive. The area where it was seen the most was in the West Virginia Ordnance Works, or what people call the TNT area. And there were several documented sightings during that year. And then around Christmas of 1967, there was a very tragic accident, a bridge collapse where 46 people were killed. And somebody stated that they saw the Mothman flying above that area before it happened. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's how this harbinger of doom thing came about. So going forward, in the Chicago area and around your area, even in Wisconsin, there have been sightings of these winged humanoids. And in fact, this is something that's been going on for a long time. And I do believe that I don't know exactly what happened, but we have got reports before those sightings we got before, in respect to what we've been getting. 2011, there were 3 sightings in that summer in Chicago, in South Chicago.
Yeah, wasn't like one or two somewhere along the line spotted like right around Chicago O'Hare, the airport?
Well, that's later.
Okay.
That was 2011, and then in the late winter, early spring of 2017, we started seeing sighting reports on MUFON. We didn't quite know where these people were at because, of course, MUFON's not going to tell you anything. But we were, one of my investigators, Manuel Navarrete, was fortunate enough to track one of these witnesses down. And she gave him the personal report, what had happened, what she saw. This thing, it did look like a 6 to 7 foot humanoid with huge wings that extended over the back, had red eyes. And this thing, when it ascended into the air, it didn't flap its wings. It's like it came, jettisoned like a rocket. And that's something very similar to what people have been seeing ever since that time. So we started putting it out there that we were doing the investigation. And mostly it's been the 3 of us. It's been myself, Manuel Navarrete, who lives in Chicago, and Tobias Whalen, who lives in Madison.
Yeah, we know Tobias.
And we've been kind of working together. Oh, we have been working together, and we've been putting our reports together. And these sightings have continuously been going on in and around Chicago, lots of different areas. And as of last October 2019, most of the sightings have been in and around the O'Hare Airport in Rosemont or in the airport property itself.
Yeah, I've seen some of those stories. I've also seen your posts that you post about Chicago, the ones about Chicago O'Hare. I see those quite often. I've read those. Now that one's also been seen in Michigan too, right? If I
Mm-hmm.
believe.
Yeah, we had a couple in Michigan. I'm taking reports from anywhere, but I'm kind of more partial to those sightings that are within 200 to 250 miles of the Chicago area. And we've had over 100 sightings that we believe are authentic. You can kind of tell when somebody's pulling your leg when you first talk to them, but the witnesses that we have been very forthcoming, and they don't embellish on their story. They tell you like it is.
Yeah, it helps to have some good instincts when you talk to people and witnesses. That always helps too, because I've noticed there are some people that like to pull your legs or make a hoax video and put it up online or something like that. I've seen them. I've debunked a few. We've debunked a few. You know, um, but then there's the Michigan Dog Man. We've got the Beast of Bray Road. They're pretty much similar too. Have you done any research into those?
Oh yeah, especially here in Pennsylvania, we've been involved with the upright canine investigations here for almost 5 or 6 years now. And this is a phenomena that's been going on for a long time. Of course, you know about the Beast of Bray Road and the reporting of Linda Godfrey and such. And of course, there was the early Gable film, which was a hoax in the Michigan Dog Man. I mean, though we have had sightings in Michigan, mostly up in the Upper Peninsula for the most part, but we've had some very interesting sightings in southern Wisconsin.
How much of those do you think might be misidentifications or something that's possibly went extinct and survived, or a hybrid when it comes to those?
If I take all the reports together, I think some are actually Bigfoot that are misidentified. The upright canines, the ones that are actually moving on two legs, I think it's pretty distinctive that these are not some type of misidentifications for the most part. These things are huge, and I'm talking anywhere from 7 to 10 foot in size.
Right.
Some of the sightings we've got here in Pennsylvania, if you're familiar with the Underworld series and the lichens, that's what they are. That's what they look like.
That was a good movie.
And the descriptions are very similar to that. The reports we have gotten here in Pennsylvania are quite interesting to the degree that we have Pennsylvania Game Commissioner officers working with us.
Really?
And in fact, one of these Game Commission officers actually had an encounter with he and his wife and 2 other couples in Rothrock State Park, which is in Center County, Pennsylvania. And they had an encounter with one of these beings. But at this point now, and I don't know how many butches we have, but I think it's approximately maybe around 30 sightings now since we started working on that.
Interesting. I think some of it there's some misidentification because I grew up around here. I know there's wolves, there's coyotes, but when we first went down to the Bray Road area and we actually drove Bray Road, I can see how the mind can actually play tricks on a person if they saw a wolf or a coyote eating roadkill. That road is about 2 miles long and extremely dark at night.
Yeah.
There's no street lights. The lights from the house don't even help on that road at all. So if you're driving around, driving alone, and you see a big wolf or a hybrid, You know,
Well,
they could
I
play
tell you,
tricks with you.
some of the evidence I have found, and some of the people I've talked to and discussed with, especially a guy by the name of Lee Hemphill, who lives off Bray
Yeah,
Road. He's got it. He's
yeah.
from Chicago, but he's got a farm there.
I know who Lee Ample is. We spent 8 hours on his farm talking to him and looking at his pictures.
Yeah, he's got some pretty interesting stuff. Um, to the degree where it's very possible that some of these beings manifest. It's
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. He's
it,
got some very. I'd say I put it this way: we got a lot more than what we bargained for when we showed up and met Lee Hample. I mean, we were just expecting the Beast of Bray Road stories and the casts, and we got a lot more than what we bargained for. I mean, we toured his property, walked around, listened to his stories.
yeah.
He got showed the cast to us. We've got a lot of footage. We've got plans to actually go back with a guy out of Illinois by the name of Dale Kazmarek,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully next year sometime. Because of the COVID thing, it didn't kind of work out for any of us to go back and do a night investigation there. But it was very interesting. I mean, I keep an open mind because I know how sometimes the mind can play tricks on you, but boy, his stuff is extremely convincing. I was
Yeah,
quite shocked.
he's had some very interesting encounters there, and I don't think he's trying to pull anybody. Well, you know, Linda's investigated that farm, and she's convinced of what's going on over there. So, you know, that's what kind of spurred me to get in contact with him as well. But you know, if you see her film, the Beast of Bray Road, well, is the one that was produced and directed by Small Town Monsters. It's good film, and it kind of gives you a little better insight as to what Lee had experienced, and some of the things that manifested while he was on the road there with his car videotaping and such. Been a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, she's also been on some TV shows, being interviewed about that. Like, um, I can't remember the ones that she was on, but there was quite a few there. I have yet to get her book because I've been following a lot of Chad Lewis's stuff first. We kind of use that as a guideline where we're going. I found out growing up in Wisconsin, you know, I grew up from one of the most haunted cemeteries in Madison called Forest Hill Cemetery. I kind of spent a lot of time. Used to play Ghosts in the Graveyard in there. Had no idea about the history of the place or anything. And then, you know, I'm like kind of shocked when I start finding out all the history and all the legends and lores all over this state. It's just so rich. And then to find out that it's everywhere, you know.
Mhm.
So do you look into the sea creatures as well?
Not particularly, you know, I'm interested when I read them and such, but as far as actually going on site or doing that type of investigation, no, I've never actually done that. You know, I kind of leave that up to other folks to let me know the information, what they see, what they report, and you know,
Yeah, it'd
the
be too
water.
much. It'd be too much equipment. You'd have to have underwater cameras,
Yeah,
be able to scuba dive. I don't think so. Not for me. You know, I mean,
yeah,
I can swim, but I don't think so. Not in these waters around here anymore.
yeah. I'm not
You
a
know,
water guy.
Nor am I.
you can't swim. But
Yeah, my
so,
mom would never let me learn how to
what's one
swim.
of your favorites? I mean, there's one that goes back pretty far. This is the one that got me hooked on the cryptids. Was I was riding along because I only had AM radio and I was listening to a guy named Art Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And he used to talk about the chupacabra. Yeah, that's what got me hooked on the cryptids. Was that one? So, what do you think about that? What do you think that might be?
Well, the chupacabras. I mean, there's a lot of misidentification. You know, The chupacabra was actually something that started being seen in Puerto Rico, and the descriptions were very distinctive, almost like a dog-like being, but it had these spikes on its back, and a very unnatural animal. And in fact, there were a lot of instances where there'd be UFO activity, possibly associated lights and such. Um, I've investigated several supposed chupacabra uh, sightings in Puerto Rico. But of course, there have been other sightings all throughout Latin America. And of course, people claim here in the United States of encountering these chupacabras, though we call them blue dogs basically because they're kind of a hairless, like canine. But from what we have figured, and I've talked to Ken Gerhardt about this, and David Weatherly and other investigators, these seem to be a cross between a Mexican wolf and a coyote. It could be a Mexican wolf and just a regular, pet dog or such. But they do have that hairless aspect to them, and they have the bluish skin. And of course, people are thinking, this is a chupacabra because we don't know what else it is, and that's what they call it. So these blue dogs have been seen from Kansas southward into Oklahoma and Texas and over to Arizona. So, but the chupacabra legend is an interesting one. I have talked to several people in Puerto Rico that have had encounters with something similar, and quite frankly, I don't know what it is.
Well, some of the reports of the chupacabras, people are saying that they could be just a simple old coyote with mange.
Yeah, I mean, and
Because
I've seen
mange
coyote with me.
causes, yeah, mange causes the hair loss.
I used to see a lot of coyotes when I was living in Maryland. Actually, just in the Baltimore suburbs, we used to have coyote. And I've seen fox with mange, and I've seen coyote with mange. And yeah, I mean, they could be very, you know, reportedly look like one of these blue dogs or hairless canine.
And
Yep.
well, I always wondered why you really haven't heard the like. What's to say that how nature just loves to adapt, right?
Yeah.
Everything's adapted over time, right? What if it's like a coyote or some form of wolf or something that adapted to being in the desert and just shedded all their fur? You know,
It's possible.
because one thing most canines can't do that most mammals do is sweat.
Right.
So
I
what's the better way to
Well, I just and I know that does happen because I just look at where I live out here in the eastern part of the United States. For years we didn't, for a century or more, we didn't have wolves. Coyotes had just started moving eastward about 30 years ago. So we're starting to see hybrids that are coming down from Canada, the toy wolves, which is a mixture of a
a wolf and a
coyote and a coyote, and a timber wolf. And
right?
now in New York and Pennsylvania, they're loaded here. I mean, there are packs of them. Up in Toronto, around that part of southern Ontario, they've been up there for 20 years or more. I remember seeing them. They're just loaded with them. So yeah, it's interesting that also when you talk about animals that are some are supposedly either extinct or not living in an area anymore. It's funny how they turn up because here in Pennsylvania and I lived in Maryland because I saw one down in Maryland. I saw a mountain lion, and there's lots of mountain lion sightings around here. Of course,
Yeah.
the state game commission will never acknowledge that, But they, they even had one that they killed in Connecticut a couple years ago. So they make their way. They make their way when there's lots of game, and the deer population in the eastern part of the United States has exploded over the last couple of decades.
Oh yeah, plenty of food.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have a lot of deer here in Wisconsin.
I mean, Baltimore City. This is no lie. I actually had a deer hit my car in the city. I mean, it's just deer everywhere, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
I saw a video where a deer ran across the street right into the back of a U-Haul truck.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's plenty of game, for them to feed on, and if they figure they can go to an area and survive there, why not?
That makes sense.
Well, we have a place here in Wisconsin they call Wildcat Mountain, and
I know I saw the film.
yep, and
That was a good film, wasn't it?
That was a good film. Yeah,
That was
Linda did a very good job on that film.
oh yeah,
yeah.
they
We
did.
saw it at the Milwaukee Paracon thing that was live, all internet,
Yeah.
and they featured it at the end, and it was really great. And it
I
was
have
one of
talked to
those.
some of those witnesses that were in that film, and yeah, I believe something is in that area. There's no doubt about it.
Well, I've been over to that area because my wife's got family that lives over at Hillsboro, so
Mhm.
we've been through there quite a bit, so I can easily see how a wild cat could survive over there.
Mhm.
You've got all kinds of cattle farms and deer all over the place. The further you get out in the country, the more deer you're going to find. You know, it's,
Well,
it's
that's why I don't dispute many people as far as when cryptid sightings come my way, because look, the United States, even though it's a lot of people in a lot of urban areas, certain states do have a lot of wilderness.
Yep.
I
yeah,
mean, a lot of wilderness. And, like I said, we do most of our investigations here in Pennsylvania. Well, there are parts of Pennsylvania that are the same as they were 2 centuries ago. And there's no human footprint in a lot of areas.
right,
Oh yeah.
right. Well, and then they say, all right, they say that the Black Panther doesn't exist. Well, of course, we all know it's either a jaguar or a leopard that's got the disease that's opposite of albinoism. But what's to say that that doesn't happen to a mountain lion or a cougar? I
Oh,
was
I think
watching
it
that.
is.
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
it does because you have actually documented in
well,
pictures of
but
lions, regular lions being all
if you
white
recall
or all
that
black.
some of those witnesses that were talking when they said they talked to like DNR or somebody like that, they denied that they even existed.
But that's what they do. I mean,
Right?
they're not going to admit
Okay.
that. I've
But
seen Florida Panthers that are melanistic. I mean, that are black,
right.
and there have been actual animals caught, and of course, the sightings up in Wisconsin. I have no doubt that people are seeing melanistic cats. I mean,
Cougars. And
well, yeah.
the other thing is all right, we've got common house dogs and we've got common house cats. And they come in all types of colors.
Hmm.
What's to say cougar doesn't either? Just was born that way. Not because of the melanin, the melanistic
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
That it was just like because the one cat was darker than the other, and it just happens. I mean that would explain more sightings too, because the
Hmm.
disease is a little bit more rare, and that it's a little bit more common. I just like to use a little common sense. Why can't if your normal canine and your normal felines that you have at the house can be just about any color under the rainbow when they're born? I've had black cats, pure black cats.
Hmm.
What's to say a cougar can't be born that way, or a leopard, or a jaguar, or a cheetah, or whatever big cat you want to go?
Yeah, I mean,
Cougars.
there are cats especially. Um, there's been so much interbreeding between cat species or cat breeds for centuries,
Right.
eons.
Right.
Uh, you know, I mean, you look at your regular house cat now, and you say, "Well, it doesn't look like that tiger I'm looking at
Right.
in the zoo," but it's actually a very close relative of it.
Yep.
Right.
It's a
You
miniature
know,
version.
absolutely.
It's people. Some people just don't think that it's possible. They just so close-minded, and you got to keep an open mind on this stuff. I mean,
Hmm.
we've got cougars around here. We've got bobcats around here, and what was the other one? Lynx, I think, is the other one.
Yeah, the lynx moving down from Canada. There've been a lot of sightings of lynx. I mean, even the large Canadian lynx. I mean, I remember a sighting down in Michigan, down not far out of Detroit. This huge lynx, and they are big.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they look so damn cuddly, don't they?
Yeah, but I ain't gonna go grab one of them.
All right, so let me ask you this:
Mm.
what about the Wendigo or the Skinwalker? Would you place that in the cryptid category?
Yeah, it's unknown. I mean, but when you're talking skinwalkers, when you're talking skinwalker is actually a witch, a transformed witch. It's a supernatural being. They can transform into any animal. Mostly, it's a canine or
Hmm.
a wolf or a coyote or whatever. I mean, you've got that tradition in several Native American tribes, Navajo, Ute,
Yep.
Hopi. I mean, that's something that's very well known by the indigenous people. And the fact that there are other tribes in other areas that have something similar is, they do call it something else, but it's most likely based on either the religion or some type of black magic that a witch in a tribe or that is involved with. It's usually a revenge type of thing. Um, I have been fortunate enough to uh, talk to people and be associated with Navajo in the Four Corners area in
Hmm.
Arizona and New Mexico, and even as though some of the older folks will not talk about it, some of the younger uh, generations will discuss with you. When you say Wendigo, now Wendigo is an entirely different thing. That is another supernatural being, though I do just call it a cryptid. I mean, but it does seem to be a flesh and blood being of some type that is either, some type of shapeshifter or a manifested being. Of course, I mean, you were
Hmm.
talking about Chad Lewis. His book is fantastic, uh, The Wendigo. And he's got some very good examples of it in there. And it seems to be either like a lycanthropy type of disease or something that's manifested. Uh, is there a cult involved? A cult? Absolutely, very well could be. Most of these Wendigo are seen or experienced in Canada or in the other tribes, the Ojibwe, the Cree, and that
Hmm.
those tribes. There have been some supposed Wendigo in uh, in parts of New York, parts of Michigan, and even up in the Dakotas. But it's mostly up in Canada. But as far as being an indigenous species, no, I don't think it is that. It's something with an occult aspect to it, supernatural aspect to it, and it's based on either the religion of the tribe or the magic or occult parts of their religion or of maybe a witch or warlock or something that's associated with that.
cool aspects to it. Just kind of wondering, where you would have placed it. So, what about what about mermaids? Do you think they exist?
I think those sightings that have been described as mermaids may actually have been something else that was misidentified. Of course, the Columbus and his crew described these mermaids, sirens, that very well could have been Indian manatees, or somehow, they were drinking too much rum on the ship and saw something different what it really was, or misinterpreted. Um, there's a lot of water spirits that have been seen worldwide. If you read some of the lore in West Africa, especially, uh, I guess they could be interpreted as some type of water spirit, but the body type is that of a female that lives near the water. Uh, the sightings that have come out of the Caribbean and more recently in the Bahamas, and there have been some in a little further south than that. But I don't know what they are. I've talked to people who claim they have caught these things. I still haven't seen one yet.
No. Well, the reason I was brought it up and was thinking about it. I don't know if you've ever seen the document. I should say mockumentary that
Yeah, it was a
Discovery Channel
mockumentary.
made. No, it is a mockumentary that the Discovery Channel made. They made it specifically so they could talk. They could bring to light the testing of the sonar equipments and stuff that the military was using, which was screwing up the dolphins and the whales, which that gave us that time frame of all those times that the pods were beaching themselves.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that was why they came up with that.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean,
It
I
was
just
very
missed it
well
out of hand. It
done.
was interesting. It was well done, but it
It was
was,
very well done, and it
but
made a lot of sense the way they did it.
yeah, but I'm quite sure I'd be hearing if people were seeing these things, I'd be hearing about it.
Well, yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody would be hearing about it,
Yeah.
but so
So I'm looking at your website. You did a thing on the real Men in Black. What's
Hmm.
that all about? I mean, we know a little bit. We figure they exist. I mean, with all the cover-ups and the conspiracy theories around UFOs and stuff like that, we figure something's
Yeah,
got to exist.
I, the Men in Black is kind of a strange phenomena. Um, I do believe that they are possibly alien. I wrote a book about alien encounters, alien experiencers, and I was trying to find other types of creatures or beings that could be associated with aliens people see. And I think the Men in Black are very close to that because most of the description of a humanoid that is just not like a regular human. I mean, they have the olive skin. They're always wearing the same type of clothing. They've got this strange, almost robotic speech to them, and they seem to have the ability to show up right after a sighting, even before it's reported.
mhm.
I've talked to people who have either seen some type of unknown humanoid or being, or even a craft, and these guys are showing up 15, 20 minutes later. And, how are they able to do that?
Well, I've never been visited by them, and I've actually seen a couple of UFOs. Actually,
Yeah, when you see the wrong
like
UFO, they're coming.
seen UFOs. We
You
had
got, go
I
ahead.
seen one that looked like a meteorite coming into the atmosphere. My girlfriend's a
Mm.
witness to this too. Um, and of course, I had my cell phone on me and didn't even think to grab the damn thing and film it. But it was coming in, it looked like ball fire, meteorite. And it was spotty, cloudy that night. It was in the evening, and it came in and got in behind a cloud. And you figure it comes in behind the cloud, it's going to come out the other end, right? It never did. It sat there. Whatever it did, it was there for a few seconds of time, and it went the opposite direction when it came
Hmm.
out of the cloud.
Yeah, if it's coming
That
down
was
and
really
changes
weird.
direction, that ain't no meteorite.
No, that wasn't a meteorite. And I worked at Waste Management for a time, and I was at one of my routes. I had to start at like 4 o'clock in the morning, so I'd be on the route by 5. Well, I was out on the route, headed to my second stop. This is like 5:30, 5:40 in the morning. I'm out by Johnson Creek, out in the area here, and I see this light, is a really bright light coming across. It's like coming straight towards me over a field, about 500 feet over this field, and it was a good 150 yards out from where I was at. The wind, there was a slight breeze blowing, but it was blowing the direction I was headed, and this thing was coming towards me. And I literally stopped the truck, got out, and walked over to the edge of the road, and watched it just slowly just continue on through. And it was a triangular craft. So it was really weird to see that kind of stuff, but cool at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah, we do get a
So,
lot of, as far as UFO activity, over past couple of years, decades and all, we do get a lot of UFO reports or orb sightings that are associated with cryptid activity as well.
hmm
Uh, it makes you want to think that, well, maybe there's some type of alien association, extraterrestrial association with the cryptids that are reported by people, in particular Bigfoot. There had around this part of the country, there had been Bigfoot and UFO sightings uh, at the same time. And in fact, one real well documented case, the Presque Isle case up near Erie, um, very well known case. Stan Gordon's been had a report of a case that was well known on the Chestnut Ridge, and people do see this stuff. Um,
oh yeah, there's a lot of unexplained things that are in this night sky, and there's a lot of unexplained things that are in the woods and on this earth. You know,
Keeps us busy, man.
yeah, and I believe that we are still going to be finding at some point in the future. We will probably still find a new species somewhere again, or a species that has evolved into a new form
Yeah,
of species, or like with the Tasmanian devil, or I should say Tasmanian tiger.
right.
You know, they thought it was extinct, and in the last supposed one was what was it, in the late
1932
okay,
in the
that
Hobart Zoo, they had one there.
yeah, it was in the zoo. That was supposed to be the last one in existence, according to what they said. But here,
Oh,
just back in I think early 2000s, they found someone had filmed one in the wild of
Hmm.
Tasmania. So there's
Yeah, there have
there's
been a
a
lot of sightings in Australia of pretty interesting sightings. It could be a tiger, it could be a lot of things, but the stripes themselves have been actually seen. It does make you think that the thylacine is actually still alive and well,
hmm
but when we start seeing bigger populations of them, then we'll know for sure.
right.
right. Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of strange, because it's like with the coelacanth. The coelacanth was thought to be extinct for the longest time until one was caught off of off the shorelines over in Japan, and they brought that up out of the depths of the ocean, and oh, lo and behold, here's an extinct species, or a species that's supposed to be extinct, and it's thriving. I mean, it's nice to see that happen because
Hmm.
it gives a lot of people hope that things aren't as bad as they look on the surface.
Hmm.
But then again, you know, how many things have we gotten wrong and how many things have we gotten right when it comes to identifying these species that are supposedly extinct or going extinct? So,
So anyway, before we go, because it's getting that time, you've got it looks like 3 books. You got 3 books,
Yeah,
Lon?
there are 3 books in print right now. It's the
Winged
Mothman
cryptids.
Dynasty. Yeah, Mothman Dynasty, Chicago's Winged Humanoids. The second book that includes that and other winged cryptids is Winged Cryptids, Humanoids, Monsters, and Anomalous Creatures Casebook. And the other one is Alien Disclosure Experiencers Expose Reality.
They can all be found on Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just search my name, Lon Strickler, and they'll be there.
There you go. And you got other sites besides the one that's scrolling that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, we've got cryptidhunters.org, which is the site of the Families of Monsters Fortean Research Team. These are associates of mine and affiliates that we actually follow up on reports that I receive. And, of course, these people work their own cases as well. But we've got cases posted on that website of team investigation. And also, we got Beyond Explanation YouTube channel, where Arcane Radio is seen live on Friday nights.
Yeah, you want to check that out and subscribe. That's for sure. There's some good stuff there. I checked out that YouTube channel. Oh, and I don't think we got nothing coming up except for Friday. When we come up on Friday, it's going to be Friday the 13th for us. Yeah, that'll be a fun one.
Yeah.
And you got anything that you're working on that's going to be coming out soon that you can give us a hint about?
I am actually not even working on a book right now. I just really haven't had the time to do it, to be quite honest with you. My last book was earlier in the year, but yeah, I'm usually working on one by now. But quite honest with you, there's so many different subjects I could delve into. It seems what happens is when I'm working on one, I have to end up holding off because something comes up, and I want to get it as the iron's hot. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
So but I expect I'll probably have something going on by next year.
Cool. We'll have to look forward to that. All right. Till Friday, I guess. Stay safe.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
thank you
for coming on. I appreciate that.
You're welcome to come back anytime.
All you got to do is ask.
One of my favorite subjects is cryptids. It took me forever just to get him to drive down Bray Road once. And then I arranged to go to Lee Hampel's farm, and boy, that was a blast. That was totally unexpected. Stay safe, everybody.